Hey, it's your tutor Courtney Waterman, lover of anime, manga, and math. And this is another session of Tutor Me Senpai. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be jumping into a 5th grade topic, understanding exponents. In the first part of this video, we'll be going over what an exponent is and how to use it. And in the second part of the video, we'll be taking all that knowledge and then using that to solve our question for today. So make sure you stay tuned for the whole video so you know how to put whatever you learn into practice. If you have any questions about what you see today, remember you can always put them in the comment box below. Or you can visit me on Facebook at Tutor Me Senpai if you would like to see some of your own homework on this channel. If you find this video helpful, remember to leave a like, it really helps the channel. Also hit the notification bell and the subscribe button so you know exactly when I drop my next videos. Well, without further ado, let's talk a little bit more about some exponents. Now, the first thing you need to know when talking about an exponent is how an exponent looks. So let's get ourselves an exponent to look at. All right, here we go. Now, the first thing you may notice when looking at this is you have two numbers that are of different sizes. Also, this smaller number is raised up a little bit more. This is how you write exponents. This bottom number is called the base, and this top number is called the exponent. This exponent also may be referred to as the power. And what I mean by that, there are a few different ways of referring to this. And one such way is 2 to the 5th power. When someone says 2 to the 5th power, they're really meaning 2 with a 5 exponent. Another way someone could refer to this is simply 2 to the 5th. Sometimes they drop off the power. It's not super necessary to have it. You get the same idea. 2 raised to the exponent of 5. So whether someone says 2 to the 5th, 2 to the 5th power, or even 2 raised to the 5th, it all means this, base 2 with an exponent of 5. So now that we know how someone might refer to this exponent, what does this exponent actually mean? Now you might already be aware that whenever you multiply two numbers, this is simply repeated addition. Whenever you have 2 times 5, you're just saying, I want to add 2 5 times. Now this can get pretty long depending on what you're multiplying, so instead of writing out all this, you can simply just write 2 times 5. Similarly, whenever you have exponents, such as this will be shorthand for not repeated addition, but repeated multiplication. So this means you're going to multiply 2, the base, this many times by itself. So 2 to the 5th power, or 2 to the 5th, or 2 raised to the 5th, is simply 2 multiplied by itself 5 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So if multiplication is just shorthand for repeated addition, you can think of exponents as shorthand for repeated multiplication. Now that we know that exponents are just as shorthand for multiplication, let's go over a few tips that will really save you a lot of time if you commit them to memory. The first tip is anything raised to the first power, for example, 8 to the first power, is simply the base. Remember, 2 to the 5th was simply 2 5 times. So the exponent will tell you how many times you need to write it. So whenever you have a 1, simply write the base and you're done. 8 to the first power is simply just 8. The second tip that would be really good for you to memorize would be any base, let's say 5 to the 0 power, is going to be 1. No matter the base, it doesn't matter if it's 3 to the 0 or 100 to the 0 or 37 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is going to be 1. So if you can remember this tip right here, that will save you a lot of time in the future. and some headaches. My next tip is for when you have a base of 10. Because of how you multiply 10, the exponents when you have a base of 10 are very easy to calculate. So for example, when you have a 10 raised to the third power, that is just 10 times 10 times 10, right? And what is that? That's 1,000, right? Well, what do you notice here? There are 3 zeros, 3 tens, 3 zeros, and the exponent is 3. So the tip I have for you today is whenever you have a base of 10, you simply write 1 and then you add however many zeros you need based on that exponent. So you don't even have to worry about calculating this out. You simply write a 1 and then add extra zeros based on whatever this exponent is. So for one more quick example, 10 to the 10th power, that's a lot of tens. You don't want to write that out every time. So what we'll do is we'll write the 1 and then we'll write 10 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As long as you have a base of 10, whatever the exponent is, that's going to be how many zeros we're going to be putting after it. So if you can remember this, this is also another one that will save you a lot of headaches in the future. Another special base is a base of 1. Similar to how any base to 0 power always gives you 1, well, 1 to any power always gives you 1. So if you have 100, you're going to be multiplying out 1 times 1 times 1 times dot 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 times 1 100 times. But no matter how many times you multiply 1 by 1, you're always going to get 1. So 1 to any power is going to just be 1. Now, just a little bit more clarification here. There is one exception to this rule, and that's when you have a base of 0. 0 to the 0 power is undefined. We're just going to hold off on this. This will be for a later episode. It's a little bit more than I want to get into right now for just kind of understanding basic exponents. But this is the base that whenever you put it to the 0 power, you don't know what you're going to get here. So we're going to hold off on this one. But as long as the base is not 0, this is going to hold true. So remember, anything to the first power is going to be whatever the base was. Any base, except for 0, to the 0 power is going to be 1. 10 to any power is going to be 1 with that many zeros following it. 1 to any power is going to be simply 1 because you're just multiplying a bunch of 1s. Now, exponents can be pretty much any number. No matter how big or how small, it can be an exponent. But there are 2 exponents that are very special among all the possible numbers. The first one being 2. Whenever we have a base, let's say 3, raised to the 2, we can actually refer to that by a special name. We call that squared. So whenever someone says 3 squared, they're meaning 3 raised to the second power, 3 to the second, or 3 raised to the 2. Now you might be wondering, why is this named squared, right? Why whenever you have a 2 in the exponent, it's called a square? Well, that comes from an actual square. Now remember, the exponents is just a shorthand for repeated multiplication, right? Now how is this somehow related to a square? Well, if you are trying to find the area of a square, that's just the side times a side, right? Because all the sides are the same. So let's say this was a side with size 3 all around. Well, the area is just going to be 3 times 3, or 3 squared. So you see, squared really comes from the fact that we try to find an area of a square. Similarly to the previous example, our next one is going to be the 3 exponent. So whenever we have a base raised to the third power, we can call this cubed. Now you might already kind of figure out why this is. If squared was because of a square, cubed might be because of a cube. And just like when you're trying to find an area of a square and you have to multiply one side by another side, and since all the sides are equal, you're pretty much saying the same number times itself 2 times. Cubed is going to come from finding the volume of a cube, which is simply the height times width times length, which for a cube is all the same. So in this case, let's say it was a 2. 2 times 2 times 2, which is the same as the repeated multiplication of 2 to the 3rd power. Length times width times height equals 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 cubed. Hence the name cubed. Now that we talked about what an exponent is, how it's referred, and how to use them, let's put all that to practice to solve our question for today. You see here that we have 3 squared plus 4 to the 0 power. Now, using what we just talked about, we can automatically rewrite this as 3 squared plus, well, what's anything raised to the 0 if the base is not 0? 1, right? Anything to the 0 power is just going to be 1. So this simply means 3 squared plus 1. So now that we've rewritten 4 to the 0 power to be 1, let's rewrite 3 squared to be whatever it equals. Now we know that 3 squared is just 3 times 3 because the exponents is just a shorthand for repeated multiplication. What's 3 times 3? Well, that's simply 9. So now you're going to have 9 plus 1, which means that 3 squared plus 4 to the 0 power is just simply going to be 10. 3 squared plus 4 to the 0, 3 squared meaning 9, remember, 3 times 3, 4 to the 0 meaning 1. So when you add those two together, you get 10. Remember, if you have any questions at all, anything that confused you about what we went over today, feel free to put in the comment box below or visit me on Facebook at Tutor Sempai. If you found this video helpful at all, remember to leave that like. Also hit that notification bell and the subscribe button so you know exactly when I drop my next videos. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I really hope this helped with your homework, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney, and this has been another session of Tutor Sempai.